Thank you, Mr Acting President. Sadly, I have to speak all too briefly this afternoon because there are a number of others who wish to have their say, but it's fascinating to listen to Mr Melbourne because Mr Melbourne is alleged to represent the western suburbs. And here he was telling people that the western suburbs should be dumped upon from a very great height by a government that loathes the western suburbs. You know, they like to say, the Labor Party like to say, oh, the West is our own. And how do they treat their own? How do they treat their own? You know, Mr Melbourne spoke about a whole range of things, but the things he didn't speak about was the impact that this toxic soil will have on local people at Ravenhall, at Caroline Springs, at Taylors Hill, at Deer Park, at Buller and Sunbury. You know, none of those people were mentioned, none of those people were thought about by Mr Melbourne in this situation at all, and it is appalling. It is despicable that they would dump this stuff in highly residential areas. I find it quite extraordinary. You look at what's happened at Ravenhall over the years. You know, the stinking hole in the ground that has been there for so long that it doesn't matter, and the government's very keen to keep that there, and now they want to make it worse. They want to make it worse by dumping PFAS-ridden toxic soil, poisonous toxic soil at Ravenhall, across the road from residents, across the road from large suburbs that will be impacted severely by this toxic soil. And of course, the other possibility is Sunbury. Sunbury, Buller, one or the other. It's about the middle, and you've got a new housing development about 200 metres down the road from this proposed toxic soil dump. You've got Goonawarra, you've got schools, you've got a whole range. You've got thousands of people within cooey of this place, and you know, one thing that has never ceased to amaze me, and I've lived in that area for a long time, is that it does get very, very windy there, very, very windy indeed. And of course, this wind is picked up and blown. So here we will have PFAS-ridden soil, dust, blowing all over Buller, all over Sunbury, and the impact that will have on local people will be disgraceful. What I have to ask Mr Melbourne, and I have to ask the government, do they care? Do they care if the kids in Sunbury or in Buller or in Caroline Springs or Taylors Hill or Deer Park, do they care if these kids end up getting cancer? If we get a cancer cluster because of this PFAS soil? What happens then? Do we get an apology from the government like they normally do? Oh, I'm sorry, the Premier, he'll be well gone by then, of course, be well gone probably by Christmas. But he will, you know, somebody will get up and apologise. Bit late then. So let me say, and unfortunately I wish I had more time, but I just want to put on the record, I totally, absolutely, completely, 100% oppose the dumping of toxic soil in Buller and Sunbury and at Ravenhall. That is not on, and I know Mrs MacArthur wants to talk about Bacchus Marsh, but certainly from my perspective in my electorate, I am vehemently opposed to the dumping of toxic soil, and I am sick to death of the west of Melbourne being regarded as the dumping ground of Victoria. Enough. This government stinks as bad as that tip at Ravenhall.